My name is Robert Wilkins. This is our 8th Be Informed Special Edition. Fairness to all Auburn citizens. We at Auburns Voice have proposed a simple amendment to helping improve Ordinance 3288 short-term rental that will improve the lives of 150 Auburn families that comprise of over 450 citizens, while leaving Ordinance 3288 STR intact. Even Mayor Anders, the day after the STR Ordinance 3288 was passed in March of 2021, said it would change.
This is the first time we've ever had an ordinance or had a law, had a policy that governs short-term rentals. I can't look you honestly in the eye and tell you that I think that we've got it all right. But I can tell you there's been a great investment of time and research put into trying to do the best thing for Auburn today. We will continue to reevaluate this on an annual basis and make sure that it doesn't need to be tweaked. And who knows, one day it might need to be overhauled.
This simple amendment will allow Auburn Homestay Exception for homeowners with Homestead Tax Exemption based on the following 3 criteria. 1, the property must continue to be the homeowner's permanent resident. 2nd, the homeowner for their property must maintain an active homestead tax exemption. And 3rd, all regulations will still apply to the properties operating under this exception. This exception does not permit commercial or private events.
I promise I understand the concern, of everybody that wants to protect their neighborhood, any neighborhood, and I'm right there with you and couldn't agree more. But I contend that short-term rentals isn't necessarily the evil neighbor that some have, like I say, portrayed, and especially homestays. Your problem isn't short-term rentals; it's bad neighbors, and you're going to get that in any neighborhood. I promise you can find them in mine, just like anybody else's. I do support some sort of resolution of an ordinance tonight. I can't support this amendment. I do want to see homestays throughout the city, and I think that I haven't heard a single person in this conversation want to end all rentals in general in neighborhood conservation, and it boils down to that. And I've said it in previous meetings. You can't. I can't differentiate in my heart. A long-term 6-month rental and a homestay in particular. As far as a good and decent neighbor. I think most of your problematic short-term situations are from non-homestays or your non-primary residents. And so I do still stand by the amendment that would allow homestays in the city. A commercial enterprise, we're splitting hairs. If we're going to call a short-term rental or a homestay, these temporary homestay rentals a commercial enterprise, why isn't a 1 year lease considered a commercial enterprise? I contend it's just as much a commercial enterprise. So, I don't. I appreciate the notion and everyone's concern, but I can't step aside from I still compare the long-term rents to the homestays.
Such as long-term rentals. A lot of people think long-term is 6 months or more. Long-term in Auburn is 31 days or more. So you can do long-term rentals, you can do home businesses, game day parking, piano lessons, tutoring, yard sales, lemonade stands, etc. Except for one activity that is only allowed in certain neighborhoods. That is short-term rental, which is 1 to 30 days that's considered a short-term rental.
And learning that, this was tied to the unrelated occupancy, and that's not necessarily not illegal for folks to do this. I just want each of you as council members to understand, especially in my ward, if you accept the position that this is a nuisance and that this is a problem for some neighborhoods, but you're going to vote for it in other neighborhoods, you're treating these like neighborhoods unequal. You're saying one gets preferential treatment while the other doesn't. I cannot support, that's why I could not support the amendment. I can't support the ordinance. I'm not even getting into the grounds of the legitimacy of short-term rentals and whether it's a good policy. I just cannot imagine individual homeowners. You drive through these neighborhoods on these roads and you're in one neighborhood and you say, we're going to take care of you, but for these reasons, but we're not going to do the next neighborhood over. I don't know that that's the way we should be treating our citizens. I think that's bad public policy. I just ask the council to consider that. I know that we're looking at NC and we're going to, for certain reasons and but there's other neighborhoods. I'm not talking multifamily living. I'm talking single family neighborhoods that, you know, if you accept the proposition that this is destructive and this is a safety issue, and you pass this ordinance, you're saying I'm willing to accept those destructive policies in certain areas of the town and to certain neighborhoods and to certain families, but not others. And I just cannot support that type of public policy.
Should we allow all fellow neighbors to have short-term rentals? I have 800, I can let them open up, signatures of citizens who enthusiastically grabbed these and signed them. We put a place for their address, the date, their signatures, and they printed their names. 816. And they enthusiastically signed the petition to allow short-term rentals in Auburn's neighborhood. There are many reasons why STR is used as they are guests. My wife and I, we moved to Auburn July of 2015 into the home that my wife grew up in on Denson Drive in Auburn. My wife was having some medical problems, but we did not know at the time that she had MS. Her mobility has steadily decreased over the following years. I needed to spend more time with her, so we decided we would try Airbnb. But at first, we were not comfortable with allowing guests to stay in our homes. After a few football games, we decided to not stay in the house with them. Best thing we ever did. We met some incredible families that want a place that is quiet, in a neighborhood that is quiet. Not a single neighbor knew we were providing Airbnb to guests. The quality of guests came from all over the country. We're incredible, really incredible people.
You know, I debated heavily on whether to even say a word this evening because I've been completely appalled by the way our citizenry and our council has acted through this whole process. And, you know, we've all been in receipt of countless emails, and many have been respectful, but also many have been very disrespectful. And just hearing the conversation through the public hearing tonight, it echoes this sentiment of elitism, that we are this community that doesn't want that in our neighborhoods, and we don't want this to impact us. And to say that a like use of having people visit your home, if you've had people from your own friend group come and visit your home, then in essence, you violated the unrelated occupancy if you are using that as your argument. So if you've had college friends come and visit for a game day weekend, or if you've rented out your driveway in your front yard because you live in proximity to the university to pay, you know, for parking for game day, then you've entered into commercial activity. And the hypocrisy that we have heard over the last months it's really dumbfounding to me. And I have heard and I have read every single email, and I've had countless phone calls, and I have spent over 100 hours. I've attended the task force meetings. I've attended the Planning Commission work sessions. I've listened to their meetings. We've had our own work sessions. I've researched multiple municipalities across this country. I've looked at case law, and to suggest that the amendments that I put forth on February 16th were somehow unethical, irresponsible, derogatory, or degrading to this community is simply false. And I really, like I said, I debated to say a word, but I just believe that it has to be spoken to, and that the equality that we are ignoring, and Councilperson Smith spoke eloquently on that, to say that those who live in one neighborhood deserve preferential treatment over another. Yes, we have zoning laws, but let's not forget that NC neighborhoods, neighborhood conservation speaks to setbacks. And if that's hard to hear, I'm sorry. But that's what it speaks to. And I just, I think we have a long way to go as regard to short-term rentals. This is not going anywhere. And I think people are going to recognize that even what we pass, if we pass anything this evening, is going to be almost impossible to regulate. And what will come forth in the years to come will be interesting to see. But 200 to 300 homes, as alluded by one of the public hearing constituents, 200 to 300 homes, that's what we're talking about. 200 to 300 homes at the height of its activity has divided this city. And we need to be focused on things that are really impacting the city, like crime and traffic and water and trash and other things. And I'm not going to sit back and just let the countless disrespectful emails that we have received go unspoken to, because it's been divisive. It's been ugly. We act like we are just the most elite community in this country, and we should all embrace each other in our differences, and we should embrace each other in our diversity. And we have not shown that through this process, and it's embarrassing. And I think it needed to be mentioned. And I appreciate everyone's input that has been respectful. And I appreciate everyone who has brought forth suggestions to this process, because this should be an ongoing conversation. And to suggest that we can't have a civil conversation about this, and that we can't offer amendments, and we can't look through this from a solutions-based process and a lens is, it's not how we should operate, and it's not democracy. And I think tonight we've seen a better side of that, but moving forward, I hope that this council, and I hope our citizenry, understands that we are better than what has happened over the last several months. And to speak to what's in front of us as an amended ordinance, back to a portion of what was represented and presented by the Planning Commission, I'm all for solving this and moving forward. And I've listened to my constituency on both sides of this, and it's not just one side. And I will go back to, this is not a popularity contest. And, I still believe that this speaks to equality and equity. And for those reasons, I will not be supporting what has been presented to us as an amended ordinance.
George Washington said, freedom and property rights are inseparable. You can't have one without the other. Be informed by joining YouTube Auburn's Voice. Distribute this to your friends, family, and on social media. You can make a real difference. Thank you. Become a part of our Be Informed campaign. And be informed.